Okay, well, let's go ahead and get started. There's a few more people that are going to trickle in here and there, but that's okay. Again, my name is Alex, and I am the head of support for Aplos. So it is my job to help oversee the team of individuals that help you guys answer questions or get trained in the software. If there's anything that goes wrong, or you have a question or need some training or something, our support is all free. So we help with that. So I have the privilege of leading that team. I've been with Aplos for this is my 5th year now, so we've been around for quite a while. And one of the things that I like to do are these webinars. It allows me to teach, which I enjoy, as well as kind of showcase the software. And then what we've been doing for the past couple of months here is doing this kind of once a month higher level training type thing. Last month it was on journal entry. So what is a journal entry, and when do you use that, and why do you use that kind of thing. So that's available for you pre-recorded if you want to take a listen to that. This month, or this, what we're doing here today is actually a different topic, and this is on month-end closing procedures. So for those of you who are new to accounting, bookkeeping, basically as you do things throughout a month, as you keep track of your books and perform actions, every month there's a couple of things that you want to do to just make sure all of your T's are crossed and your I's are dotted, just to make sure everything is copacetic. So that's what we're going to be taking a look at here today. So again, if you guys have any questions as we go through this, feel free to type those into the question field, and then I will do my best to answer everything at the end. All right. Well, and again, this is going over month-end closing procedures. There's really only a few things that we're going to cover here today. In the webinar that we're going to do in December, that is on year-end closing checklists, which is much more. So feel free to tune into that as well. So for a month-end checklist, now you can do this no matter if you're using Aplos or whatever software that you use. For today, we're going to be using Aplos as the example, so I'm a little biased to use our software. But essentially, at the end of the month, you've spent 30 days or so keeping track of things. So you've tracked donors, you've tracked expenses, you've tracked other types of income, you've tracked fund balances and bank transfers, and downloaded transactions from your bank and imported them into Aplos. All of these things you've done throughout the month. So how, at the end of the month, do you now kind of make sure that everything has been accounted for and everything is, more importantly, accurate? Well, so the first thing that you're going to do is just kind of go through your own process and make sure that all transactions have been entered. So what does that mean? So that means all contributions that you've received whenever, make sure that you've got all of those recorded to the right people. All of those are entered into the contribution screen here or through the register. So make sure the contributions are up to date, as well as your expenses. So ask all of your employees, ask your managers for all of their receipts. Get all of the expenses that have happened. Make sure to code those correctly for the date, and then the right expense account that you want to use, the right payee, the right amount. Basically, enter everything. Enter all the income, all the expenses. And so the first thing we're going to take a look at here today is what we call now a bank reconciliation. Now, let me quickly explain the difference between bank integration and bank reconciliation. Bank integration, first of all, you've got your register here. Your register is your list of transactions for your bank accounts set up in Aplos. Bank integration allows you to link your financial institution, your bank or credit card, with one of your asset accounts in Aplos. It's simply a time-saving tool. That's it. It doesn't do anything automatically. It doesn't magically wave a wand to make sure that everything is right. But what it does is it pings your bank, it downloads transactions, and then you go to a screen like this, and you change the note or the memo, you change the payee, you assign an account, and then you pick a fund and then click import. Once you click import, that goes into your register. So again, it's strictly a time-saving tool. It just allows you to download all the bulk of the information rather than entering everything in by hand. So that's bank integration. Bank reconciliation is an entirely different thing, and this is a process that you go through, what we suggest on a monthly basis, but you can do it on different intervals. Let's just call it monthly. So you go through this on a monthly basis, and what this does is it allows you to compare your bank statement with the information that's in Aplos, so that as of any given day, you know that the information in Aplos is accurate when compared with my bank. So if you go here to your, If you go to your register and you see that the transactions have been reconciled or cleared, or even some would say, approved, if you will, as of the end of, July, then you know that all of these transactions and their amounts are exactly correct because you compared them with your bank. Okay, so let's go ahead and go through a bank reconciliation, and I'll show you what that looks like. So I'm going to go to bank reconciliation, and then this first screen here, there's a little guide that you can download, by the way, but you're going to pick what account you're reconciling. So this is going to be one of your register accounts, so one of your checking or savings or credit card. Let's go with checking. And then you're going to go down here, and there's 3 fields. One is opening balance, one is statement ending date, and the other is statement ending balance. Okay, so the opening balance, if this is your first reconciliation, this is going to be 0, so don't get freaked out by that. There's a little text here if you want to read it, but I'll just explain it. This means that you haven't done a bank reconciliation yet. That's it. There's nothing to work off of. You haven't done anything yet. So the opening balance is 0. So what you would do then is move to the second field and say your statement ending date. So let's say that I want to reconcile all of my transactions through the month of July. So I'm going to say July 31st is my statement ending date, and this is pulled from your bank statement that you would get from your bank. So look at the ending date, 7/31. Okay, statement ending balance is the balance that your bank said you had in the account as of this date. Okay, so let's just say this said it was $21,000. All right, so you've got your statement ending date, statement ending balance, and then you hit start reconciliation. Now, mine is a little bit different because this is just kind of a test account, so yours is not going to look exactly like this, but essentially what you would do on the second screen now is look at your bank statement, print it out from your bank, and get a pen, a highlighter or something, and just go down the list. So on July 13th, there was this transaction to John for 7/13. There, it appears on my statement. Here it is in Aplos. Check. Okay, next one. 7/15, we paid PG&E for $25. That's on my bank statement. That's here in Aplos. Check. There's this income. Check. This income. Check. This expense. Check. So you go through here and you check everything off. Now, again, I've got some like previous transactions here, and so this could even happen if you for instance, wrote a check in a prior month and it didn't clear your bank until yesterday. Then that's going to show up here. So this is something from May. So that could very well be on my bank statement for July, right? So you go through and you check all of these off. And if this is the first reconciliation that you're doing, you're also going to clear your starting balance if you have a starting balance in Aplos. So you go through here and you check everything off. Now, what I'm doing, just for example's sake, is checking off everything up to the ending date. That is not a best practice, okay? As you go through this, if there is something that appears on your bank statement that does not appear in Aplos, so let's say that there is a transaction on the 16th for $50 that is not here, then that means you missed something or someone missed something. And that's not bad, it's just the process, right? So what you would do is you'd go down here and click Finish Later. That's going to save the transactions that you checked, and then you can go enter that transaction here in the register. So you would enter that transaction, go to bank reconciliation, click OK again to go back into that reconciliation. That new transaction would be there, so then you would check it and move on. What I typically recommend is just go through the list, go through the bank statement, highlight or circle or whatever on the bank statement all the things that are missing or are different. Then click Finish Later, go change those things, then come back, click them all off, and they should lead to the ending balance there as of the ending date. Now I am off because I just put in a very random number, so let's go ahead and change this so that I can finish the reconciliation here. Okay, so let's hypothetically say this reconciliation is done. I went through it, went through the whole month, I checked off everything on my bank statement, everything is accounted for, check, 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 check. Okay, so once the math adds up down here, so here's your beginning balance again, 0 for your first rec, minus all of the checks and payments plus all the deposits that you've done equals your statement ending balance, and then what you cleared equals your ending balance. Basically, everything has been accounted for. The difference will be 0. And then you can go over here and click Finish Now. And what that does is it now locks down those transactions so that they cannot be changed. Now, you can change things like the comment or the account or something like that, something that doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. What you can't change is the date to a certain extent, and then the amounts, because you have gone through and said, according to my bank, these amounts are correct. So those are locked down. So what you're provided here with is a bank reconciliation report, basically saying, hey, you did a bank reconciliation. Here are the details. So here's the reconciliation date. It was for this account. This was the ending balance. This was the this was the ending date, and this was the ending balance. Okay. So here's then a summary, and that's kind of what we looked at on the previous screen. You started with nothing. This is the first reconciliation. You cleared this many payments, this many deposits, this many cleared transactions equals the ending bank balance there, which is correct. Now, this section down here confuses people, and this is the reconciliation to the account register. Now, what that means is it's reconciling the rest of the uncleared transactions that were not cleared. Again, uncleared transactions. It's reconciling those to your current bank balance in Aplos. So if you're reconciling for like May, right, all the transactions past May are going to show up down here for the uncleared transactions. And that is okay. That is what it's supposed to do. Okay, so just keep that in mind, because the reconciliation shows the transactions that have led to the end of the period of which you have reconciled, and then reconciles to your current register balance so that nothing is fraudulent. Okay, so that's your bank reconciliation report. So you can save this, you can print it, you can even go back to bank reconciliation and start the new period. So if you are now reconciling for August, you'd go in here and pick the end of August, and your statement ending balance, just say 21,000, just for fun. Start reconciliation, and then you'd go on to the next month. So print the next bank statement, go through the next list, finish the next reconciliation. Okay. Now, you can do this whenever you want. For smaller organizations that don't have a lot of money passing in and out of them, you could probably get away with doing it once a quarter. For most organizations, it's typically a monthly process, so that's why we wanted to talk about it here today. If I had to just put my 2 cents in, do it monthly. That way, nothing ever goes too long without being cleared from your bank. Okay, so you don't want to get 6 months down the road, and now you've got these bank reconciliations to do. So not only is it a large amount of work for you to process, but it also introduces the fact that there might be an error, 6 months ago that you never caught, that you are now catching now. So now you have to go back and fix it. So anyway, just a best practice. So let's say, hypothetically, we found something that was wrong, or you're now investigating some sort of discrepancy. Okay, something that's not right between my bank and Aplos, so now I need to investigate. It's kind of hard to go into how you would specifically do that for like case scenarios. If you guys want to type in a question of a certain case, I can answer it. But let's say you wanted to research something at the end of the month that is off. Okay, one of the quickest ways to do that is to go into reports, and then to go to the transaction list report. Now, the transaction list report you can get to from the income statement or the balance sheet. So if you're on like an income statement and you say, communications, that's weird. We shouldn't have spent any money for communications this month. I wonder what that is. Click on that amount. That'll bring you to a transaction details report for that one particular account for that date range, which will show you all of the transactions that have been recorded. And you can use the add columns thing here to add more information to this report. So if you wanted to see a kind of a further breakdown, you can say, oh, that's Shannon, that's okay. I know what that is, not a problem. Or, hey, it looks like we paid John twice. I wonder what that is. What you can do then is click on the actual amount, and that will take you to the actual transaction to where you can do a little bit more research. You can delete it, you can change it, you can update it, you can do whatever you need to do, add more detail, whatever, and then click submit, and then that will save. And then to go back to that report, you can click go up here in this history return to reports box thing here. Click go. That'll take you back to the transaction list report, and you can move on to the next one. So a lot of customers ask us like, hey, how can we kind of batch update transactions from one account to the other? Our bookkeeper was recording all these transactions using this account, but it actually needs to be that account. Well, that's not really a simple way to just presto change it. But what you can do is run a transaction list, go to this report, which this report, when you click on it, defaults to all of your accounts and transactions. But you can use these filters at the top to narrow that down. So say, communications actually needed to be something different. I can go to communications here and click update. That'll show me all of those transactions. And then now what I do is click through here, and I can now change the account to something different. Let's say this needed to actually be, I don't know, dues and subscriptions. Okay, I can change it to that, click submit, and then click go. And then now I'm only left with 2 transactions. So I click on that one, I type in dues and subscriptions, I change that one, click go. Now I've only got 1. And this one's a little bit different because it's an accounts payable, but same thing, change the account, submit, and there you go. So that is how you can research discrepancies and essentially, handle them. So whether you're missing an amount or an amount is wrong, or any sort of detail that you need to drill down into, you can either go to an income statement or balance sheet and click on an amount, which will take you to a transaction list, or you can go to the transaction list and then pick what accounts you want to look at, and then add any details you want to see, and then investigate from there. Okay. So we've looked at a bank reconciliation, which kind of locks down stuff, per period of time that you want to reconcile, typically per month. We've also looked at how to investigate discrepancies and how you can go about changing those things. Again, if you have questions, let me know, or specific examples. So the third thing that I wanted to cover here today is the concept of what reports should you generate at the end of the month, and what do you do with them. Okay. This practice is a little bit different depending on what organization you are. Everybody differs with this. And since we are an online software, we differ even more, because your reports are now always accessible. And so anybody that has access to Aplos can run a report whenever they need it. So that kind of decreases the need for having printed reports and filing cabinets and that kind of thing. But people still use that. So the 2 main reports that people generate on a monthly basis are the income statement and the balance sheet. Those most often are the 2 reports that people fall back on. The income statement shows all of the ways that you've received money, and then all of the ways that you've spent money for the month. And these reports can be customized using this right side menu here. You can show fund balances, you can show zero balances, you can show subtotal by group, you can just show just about anything, and then print it or export it to Excel whenever you need. So that would be the income statement. Then the balance sheet shows you basically your financial position. So what are all the balances of all of your possessions, and then all of your debt, and so what do you have left over in all of your fund balances as of the end of the month or today, whatever you want to do. So the income statement, the balance sheet are the 2 most commonly generated reports. Some other stuff that you might want to do is a budget to actual, which is a type of income statement. So a budget to actual is an income statement, but with your budget information put in there. So you can see that as of today, as of the end of October here, I have these total amounts in these accounts, and then I don't have a budget, so this is a bad example, but you would have your budget figures there, so you could see what the difference is between your budget and your actual, and then the percent of your annual budget as well, so you can kind of see how you're doing, and year to date. So the budget to actual might be something that people want to see. Your organization also might require you to run some sort of like an income by person, just to see kind of a detailed breakout of who's given what or what type of income you've received, as well as maybe a transaction list. I've heard of some organizations want to see an expense list per month, just to see a kind of an itemized breakout of that kind of thing. So you can run that through a transaction list, or even your bank reconciliation report would show all of the transactions that have cleared in that period of time, which would probably be a more comprehensive and better list to show. So if I had to give you 3 reports to generate at the end of every month and give to your board or to your management staff, or just file away for safekeeping, it would be an income statement for that month or year to date, a balance sheet for the end of the month, and then a bank reconciliation report for the month that was just reconciled. And once you have those, again, you can give them to people, you can make decisions, you can tuck them away, whatever you need to do at the end of the month. Okay, well, I'm looking down my list, and that is really all that I had in mind to cover today. Again, very basic. The year-end closing procedures are much more robust because that gets into closing accounts, and we're going to do that in December. But as far as Aplos goes, that's really all that's needed at the end of every month. Just make sure all transactions and contributions are entered. Do a bank reconciliation to make sure of that. Research any discrepancies that you've got, so any varying accounts or amounts or details that you think might be in error, and then print reports and provide those to management or to your staff or to your board, or just tuck them away so that if anybody asks, you can get them quickly. Alrighty. Well, that's it for me. What I'd like to do now is open it up for some Q&A time. So we've got plenty of time here. So feel free to use that question field to type through anything in, and then I will do my best to answer everything here in just a few minutes. Okay, I'll be right back.